Hello CBers and welcome back to the suspension room here at Black and White Bikes for an update on the video about the CB500 YSS race shocks that we sell. And also later on in the video we've got some news about a hot new product, so stay tuned for that as well. Now in the last video I actually made a couple of little tiny mistakes and I want to put those right. Firstly, I said something along the lines of there wasn't quality damping inside these YSS shocks because they're so cheap, it's unbelievable to think they would have. Well, funnily enough, sometime after that, one of you guys actually crashed and bent one of these shocks and allowed me to, before I threw it away, take it apart and have a look inside to see what was going on. Well, I'm gobsmacked at the quality of the workmanship inside these shocks. Have a look at this. This is the internals of a CB500 YSS shock, right? Now, for the price, this is unbelievable. That is a proper shim stack and a proper piston. Okay, it's got a peening over, which means we can't get to it. I mean, I could put it in a lathe and try and cut a thread and do all that. It's just not worth doing. But that is a proper shim stack for proper damping, and it's why these shocks respond so well to the adjustments that I make in the oil and gas. Okay, as I say, I can't say gobsmacked too many times. That is brilliant. That is high quality stuff. How they do it for the money, I'll never know, but I'm glad they do. So that's what's inside your YSS shocks. Okay, the second little mistake I made was I said that there are two spring rates. The smaller, the lighter spring was a 1625. Not a 1625, it's a 1725. Makes no difference at all because no one uses them. Someone like Danny Pedrosa turned up at 55 kilos, is he? He'll need the 1725, but everyone else, no. I've sold, all the shocks I've sold are on the 2030 spring. And we make that work by adjusting the preload. We make that work for 80 to 100 kilos-ish, something like that. Maybe even pushing it on to 105 kilos, 16 stone, right? We can make those work. That's because in the Thundersport regulations, those were the two springs that were allowed. Now I'm only responding now to the requests that have been made to me, but people have been asking if there are stronger springs available. So some of you guys are a bit heavier than 100 kilos. We can cope with this, all right? We've got some answers for you. So you've got the 1725 and the 2030, like I say. But also we've got, looking down at my notes, 2535, 2545 and 3050. 3050 is a bit excessive. You're going to be a big lad to go need one of those. But this 2535 spring looks really interesting to me. Some of you guys that are adding a lot of preload onto the 2030 spring, you might benefit from moving up to this 2535 spring. So give me a call if that's the situation and you want to try this 2535 spring. Happy to help, all right? But it's not legit in the Thundersport regs. Just outline that, but you might be just doing track days, whatever. So I'm not going to ask questions. If that's the spring you want, I can supply it. Cool. Lastly, to do with this week, these YSS shocks, right, is how I sell them. I sell them, I get them in from the wholesaler, the UK distributor, I service them, put them back in the brand new box, and I'll ship them out to you. Okay, UK bound, not a problem. Never sent any worldwide yet, but I could do if you wanted to. Now, I don't sell them on eBay. I don't sell them on Amazon, Etsy, Alibaba, whatever. I don't do any of that. They are only available if you phone me up, if you message me, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, see me in the paddock at Cadwell and grab me around the neck and say, I want some. Right? That's how you get hold of them. I don't sell anywhere else. Okay. There are, I believe, race shocks for a CB500 advertised on eBay. They just are standard shocks with the 2030 spring. That's all that they're there for, right? You can buy those, send them to me and I'll service them, no problem, but you're gonna be wasting a load of money, okay? The cheapest way to buy them with my service package in them is by buying them direct from me as a whole. I will also service old shocks, shocks that I sold. They'll need servicing every year or so, maybe 2 years, depends on the amount of usage you get out of them. But they do need an update, so I can refresh them. All right, so give me a shout and we can sort that out for you. So that's the good news about the YSS race shocks. And in a minute, to take a short break, and then we've got a big announcement to make. Whoa, stay tuned. Okay, so that's the update on the rear shocks, but now we've got some exciting news about the front forks for you. So, up to now, you've been quite limited in what's available for the CB500. You've done some great things with Hagen progressive springs and what like, but we've got something better for you. Starting off with a PD valve. Now, this is a YSS product. It's like the Racetech Gold valve emulator thing. This is a PD valve. It's a compression damper supposed to emulate a cartridge fork. Okay, now it's got a spring here which can be adjusted for preload. You do it up a little bit. There's a nut on the other end. You do that spring up using the Allen key at the top and a nut at the bottom, and that adds preload onto a valve, so that will give you more compression damping if you need it. But they're set from the factory at a pretty realistic place to start with. So you get that in your pack, and that goes down that way up with the spring sticking up, down, and sits on top of the Honda damper rod inside. There's no need to strip the fork down, no need to adjust or change the damper rod. Can do, but to be honest, there's so little compression damping in those forks that it's not worth changing the damper rod at all. So just drop that down on top of the damper rod. Then we have for you some linear springs. Yeah, linear springs. We've got these ranging from 7.0 up to 10.0 in halves. So 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10. Okay, 10s will run for the big lads, running if they're weighing in at sort of 16, 17 stone maybe. The 7s will be really light guys. I would imagine most people will opt for an 8.5, 9 or 9.5. That'll be the range where you'll really want to get these in. There's not an endless supply of these, I've got to warn you. There will be a time, God knows when, but depends how well they sell. But there will be a time these might run dry. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get any more after that. But brilliant linear spring, fantastic. To make that linear spring work, we just need a custom length preload tube, which we make here at Black and White Bikes. We just cut that to suit, and to help that, protect that, either end of that go some just flat washers. They're M16 flat washers, and they're 3mm in thickness. You can get more of these and put them in your fork, sat on top of the preload spacer to give you more preload like that. You can do that. Once you get to the right length that you're comfortable with, phone me up, send me a message, and I'll cut you a new tube to the right length that you want, if that's what you want to do. Or you might be happy with 3, 4 of these in your fork. Doesn't matter either way. So, installation process for this. I've got a fork here. Can you just see the top of that? I'll lift that up. That's it extended. So, I've got a fork here. What I do, there's no oil in this currently, just for keeping things clean and tidy. But what we do is put your oil in, get your old spring, your old preload spacers out, put your oil in, set your air gap to whatever your preference is. But I would recommend with these PD valves that you go for 15 weight oil. I use Silcoline, 15 weight oil with a 130 air gap. That's my preference, and I know that other people have different preferences. That's fine. Yeah, just tweak your air gap as to what you would prefer. So your oil set, your air gap set, we want to drop the PD valve in next with the spring sat on top of it. What I find easiest to do is get a magnetic stick, extendable, and run that down the middle, inside the middle of the spring. Push that through there, and then you can, if you can see that okay, you can attach the PD valve to the bottom of that magnet and run that up inside the spring, and that's just sitting at the bottom of the spring like that, and that can just simply drop down into the fork and sit nicely on top of the damper tube. And pull the magnet stick out. Now your spring should sit pretty much flush with the stanchion at that point there. So now we can start to extend that, put a washer on top, extend that all the way up to the top, pop your preload spacer in, and now that preload spacer should again be flush with the top of the stanchion. So that's good. We add another, if that's sticking out a bit too far, then you've not put the PD valve in correctly and it's cockeyed inside and the spring isn't sat on the PD valve, and that's wrong. So start again. Okay, but if that's all flush with that, as the fork is pulled up, and that's all flush, then just pop the last washer on top of that and then put your cap on top of there and push down, turn it on. That's it, okay? So that will give you, as I've said many times already, a linear 8 spring suited to your weight in a CB500, which is what you've been after for ages. So that's it, that's the update. Give me a call, send me a message, Facebook, or whatever. Like this video, that will help as well. Tell your friends, and we'll be happy to send you out a set of, there's a couple of sets of shocks going out this week, and we've got these kits ready to go pretty much as and when. Thanks very much for watching. See you later.